If you're serving the Lord, does not absolve you. Pain is part of life. It does not mean that you are doing something wrong. And I have grown more in my painful times than my good times.
Okay, I'm here with Sam Chand, consultant. You've been a college president, you've been a pastor, you've been a leader. You coach all my friends.
Yes.
I love your concept of pain and leadership, which nobody loves, but it's important to know. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, leadership pain is something no one can avoid. You know, you can schedule your pleasure, but you can't schedule your pain. And pains come in the most unplanned times from unplanned sources, including unplanned people. So leadership pain, once you know that you're going to go through that, should not come as a surprise, but you can work towards strengthening that pain muscle.
But you do talk about the toleration of pain.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So in my book, Leadership Pain, I write about you will grow only to the threshold of your pain. The more pain you can handle, the more you're going to grow. So the difference between, for example, a large church pastor and a small church pastor is how much pain they can handle.
Yeah.
Anytime you see a large organization leader, you just need to know they are walking with a limp. They are hurting.
I say that one of the differences between good leaders and bad leaders, I quote you in this, is that the difference between active, inactive, maybe forward-thinking and not forward-thinking leaders is the ability to lean into the painful situation, having the painful conversation instead of avoiding it and staying away from it. I mean, how do I make myself want to do the hard things when it's easier not to do the hard things?
So instead of being formula, I have learned that postponing pain is pain, more pain. Just kicking the can down the road does not mean the can is off the road. It is still in the road. It will catch up with you again and again. So what I want to say to leaders is you might as well go right at it, rip the bandage. You will die of 1,000 cuts otherwise. You know it's there. Everybody else knows it's there. And they're watching you in the midst of all of that. And if your pain tolerance is low, theirs is lower.
Yeah, and I would say that, I guess for me, I try to be honest with people as early as I can be honest with people, even when it's painful, which I think is something that you help me to learn. So talk to me a little bit then about how I can grow my tolerance.
So you build the tolerance of pain by looking at your own history. And when you read the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, you will see God saying to Moses and Joshua and different ones, when this happens, look back.
Okay.
I've already done it for you. Look back. Have I not done this? Don't you remember? We think that this next battle, this next challenge is something new. Looking at my history, looking at your history, you didn't get to Talbot without pain.
Sure.
You've been through all those pains, and I have too. But I think you build pain tolerance by reminding yourself that He has been faithful, and if you behave yourself in the middle of the pain, you'll be all right. But I think we are so hurting so in the middle that we forget that we've already overcome.
Amen. I like that. And it seems that sometimes leadership is hard. And I think, I get sometimes people push back on pastoring is hard. And I recognize there's a lot of privilege and a lot of blessings being a pastor. But it is hard. I'm now a teaching pastor, so I'm not taking on the weight of leadership at a church, but I work with people who do. At Talbot, we're very driven. We're the 3rd largest multi-denominational seminary in the world. Lots of conversations with pastors. But I think part of the challenge is that pain sometimes causes you to be, I deserve now something more. And you were just talking about some of the pitfalls.
Yeah.
Like you're here talking about pitfalls. And I think sometimes leadership is hard. So I'm going to be entitled, and my entitlement's going to lead me to bad decisions. So how do we avoid that? Well, it's hard, and I'm sad, and I can never be happy. How do we avoid that?
Yeah, that whole thing of I deserve this. Nobody appreciates what I've been through.
Totally.
That is not going to matter in the whole scheme of things. And I want to say that you're just medicating your pain and creating bigger pain, because what you think is the cure is the thing that's going to come back to kill you.
Right.
But I'm so happy that you talk about Talbot, in which you are preparing people for real life. When I went through Bible college back in the early 70s, these concepts we're talking about would have put me on a blacklist somewhere.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me more.
To even confess
that
I'm going through a tough time in my marriage.
Okay.
Even to confess that I don't have enough money. So I remember when Brenda and I were first married, and we had our first baby in our first year of our marriage. Not a good combination. So I'm at a new church. We've just been married to my wife. We have our first baby, and we didn't have the money I remember we went to get food stamps. In all of that, I could not really call anybody.
Because just good be transparent with them.
Yeah, because they would say, David said, I was right, I was young, but now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken. And I'm feeling very forsaken right now. When Brenda and I were going through a tough time in our marriage, she started talking about going to another church while I was pastoring one church.
Wow.
Yeah, we went through some very, very difficult. But who would I talk to without people start saying like, yeah, Sam is a good guy, just having some marriage issues. Yeah, that's such coded language of, she's not going to be good for you.
Right.
And I would like to everyone listening to us say that you got to have those friends. And I'm so glad that at Talbot, you're going to prepare people for real life where they can have real friends to talk about real conversations.
Well, I just think that the idea of the pastor being perfect is, and I actually know that like the people taught it, like don't share your struggles, people use it against you. Now I would say don't share every struggle you have.
That's right.
But you have to have some people you can share it with. Hopefully it's elders in your church or people outside the church. So I do think it matters. It's just a question of how you best do it.
That's right. And I think people should know that this is all part of life. That if you're serving the Lord, you're a pastor, you're a staff person, you're a nonprofit, you are serving the kingdom in some way, does not absolve you. It is part of life. Pain is part of life. It does not mean that you are doing something wrong. It is just part of life. And I have grown, Ed, more in my painful times than my good times.
I think we'll all sort of say that like in reality, but it's hard living that out as well. But this leads to kind of the new conversation around your new book, Voices. Like you need the right voices. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Voices became a thought in my head as to how am I doing what I'm doing and why am I doing what I'm doing. And I realized that all the way from childhood, when my teachers gave me nicknames in school because of my misbehavior, and how
somehow I knew they gave you nicknames, yeah.
and how I lived up to their expectations. The voices in my life became voices in my head. But what was more consequential in that book I write about, but the voices in your head become the voices in your mouth, which means they become the voices in somebody else's head.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be careful not only about the voices we choose. We do get to choose, by the way. But we have to be careful about the voices in our life. For example, I listened to you this morning and you talked about the state of the church. Amazing. It was just interesting to see how you took such a dry topic and brought it alive. I knew it takes work. So, but
you don't want to present data and put him to sleep. Yeah.
So I was watching you and listening to you and taking copious notes. And your voice said, let me give you good news and bad news. But the bad news is this, but the good news is this.
Yeah, sure.
So those concurrent voices, people are going to leave that place with hopefully both voices in their head.
Right.
Some people will leave with, it's bad.
Sure.
Some people leave with, it's good. But when you leave those voices, and the more important thing is, when they go back to their churches, how do they amplify and represent your voice?
Right.
Because that can be, when you talked about opportune times, if they were to have a conversation with a leader saying, what opportunities belong to us in this community, just have that conversation. Don't fix anything, don't start anything, don't stop anything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about opportunities, precarious times, disruptive times.
I am fascinated though by your concept of like the voices in your head become the voices you articulate, and then that gets into other people's head as well. Because you're a leader. What you say, and again, it's what you feed in comes out, and then what comes out, then impacts others. So what kind of voices and how would leaders choose the right voices to listen to?
I want voices in my head who will challenge me.
Yeah.
I want voices in my head who will think of my idea as crazy, but say, tell me more about that.
So crazy, it just might work.
Yeah, exactly. I want curious voices in my life. I want voices in my life who will say, so what did Brenda say?
Yeah.
Who will send me back to the center of my universe.
Yeah, totally.
So what's she thinking about? I want voices in my life who say, let's just say it all happens. What then?
Right.
Who will help me think consequentially for the long term. So I'm looking for voices, and you don't always find those voices in person. You can find them in books, you can find them in podcasts, you can find them all kinds of places, but there are voices that linger in our head. And the thing is that the negative voices, you cannot unring those bells. They stick with you. I don't remember everything good people said to me, but I do
That's
remember.
true. You remember those. They're core memories sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So voices in your head, become the voice in your mouth, and the voice in your mouth become the voice in other people's heads.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a consequential, transgenerational, intergenerational thing into people's lives. So yeah, that's what the book Voices is all about.
Okay, so you probably coach, mentor. What word do you use to describe what you do with leaders?
I
So
help.
You help. Okay, I think it was coaching and mentoring. You're probably coached and mentored more leaders than anybody I personally know, like one-on-one. I mean, we think of people like John Maxwell, but you're like the guy who some of the key leaders in the world turn to. What advice do you give them? I recognize that, this is complicated, it's each individual thing, but let's start even with voices. What advice do you give them around that to help them be better leaders?
So some things I do that I think are important. Number one, I listen to them.
Yeah.
And I try to listen to them non-judgmentally.
Right.
I don't see myself as an answer man. That's why I stay away from the word coach, consultant.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I'm not there to judge them. I'm not there to fix anything. I'm there to listen. Number one, I also want them to know I'm safe. Whatever you say to me will go to the grave with me.
Sure, makes sense.
Not because it's a secret, but it is because it's a private conversation.
Yeah, sure.
The third thing I want them to know is that in the middle of their tough days, I'll always be available to them.
Okay.
So when I get that call, I pick it up. I find myself more empathetic because I was raised in a pastor's home.
Okay.
I've been around churches. I've been around church all my life. I've pastored myself. I'm around leaders of different genres on a regular basis. So yeah, I get cold calls. Hey,
Because everyone shares your, I have had people say
That's right.
about you to me, like, you ever co-work with him? I said, well, we're friends.
yeah. Like this podcast, somebody's listening to it and they'll try to find my number or something like that and they'll contact me. There's not a single person on this planet who can say that they reached out to me and somebody didn't respond.
Right. Okay, so then when you work with them, when it comes to voices and how they learn, give us some of the advice you give them,
Okay.
some of those key leaders.
The first question I want to know is if they're married, how's your home life?
Good, I like that.
I think everything emanates out of your home life.
Sure.
If your home life is good, the rest of it's good. The second thing is what brought you here?
Okay. So meet you. What brought you to this point?
Yeah,
of
what
need?
brought you to this point? Why did this happen? How did this happen?
Yeah.
What were the inflection points you walked past?
Yeah.
So I want to know something about their thinking. The third thing I want to know is, do you just want to talk about it or do you want to do something with it? Because there are some who just want to talk about it, and I'm good with that. But if you want to do something about it, then we go to the other side of things. I want to know who's in your ecosystem that will become important to what we're talking about. In some cases, a church board. In some cases, a supervisor. In some cases, their husband, their wife. So who are the ecosystem people who will help us as we move forward? The next thing I talk about is what's the long range plan here?
Okay, so you want to help them start thinking long range. Okay.
Yes, I always want them to think consequentially. In the times we're living in, we think short term and put a band-aid on it and move on. But I want them to think long range. Think about the people that we're talking about, major icons in the kingdom of God, who led major institutions, major churches, conferences fill up, their books sell by the millions. Hardly any of their transgressions were recent. Not all of them, but almost all of them. Something happened years ago or started happening. So it's playing the long game, if you want to call it that.
What do you mean by transgressions in that?
Transgressions would be you walk past blinking lights.
Right, I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha.
They walk past blinking caution lights. And there's not a person that I have ever worked with who said, I was totally surprised by this.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they will tell you, I walked past this, I walked past that, I knew I shouldn't have, and I don't know why I did. But there are caution lights, especially from the kingdom of God. I believe the Holy Spirit is poking us, and we just become, what the Bible talk about, a seared conscience. In my book, the first chapter of leadership pain is leadership leprosy. We become numb to it.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What advice would you give the pastor and church leaders listening?
I'll give them two pieces of advice. Your marriage, your money.
Okay.
How's your marriage and how's your money? Not the church's money, but how's your personal money? Because sooner or later, you're going to walk away from vocational ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all timing out. It's all part of how we are growing.
It is inevitable.
It's inevitable. So you will leave. And if your marriage is good, your money is good, your leaving will be good, it will be healthy. It'll be healthy for your successor.
Yeah.
It'll be healthy for the church you're leaving from, and it'll be healthy for you, and you'll be able to live a life that is full of joy and purposeful. So those are the two things: higher marriage, higher marry. If those two things are good, you will conquer pretty much anything else that comes your way.
Sam, old friend, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. And we call this the Talbotron 3000. Thanks for joining us.
Talbotron 3000. I love it. I love it.